It may sound strange to say that a faucet is one of our favorite RV upgrades. But today, I'm going to share with you why these two faucets are so great. So good, in fact, that you might want to consider putting them in a home. In a home, the kitchen is one of the most frequently used rooms. And in an RV, the same is true. We live in our RV full time, and we love to cook, so we spend a lot of time in our kitchen. One of the challenges with living in an RV is that we have to wash all our dishes by hand because we don't have an onboard dishwasher, which is true for most RVs. We also need to conserve water because we're frequently off-grid and I have to go with only the water that we have in our tank. We also were cautious about drinking that water for a very long time and would get RO water from the store because who knows what could be growing in that tank, or even if nothing's growing in it, what about the water that we got? We're always connected to different municipal supplies and we don't know the quality where we're at. Over the years, we finally found solutions for both those problems, making dishwashing more pleasant and sanitizing our water so that we can drink it, even from our freshwater tank. And those solutions are these two faucets right here. Let's first talk about this main faucet. It looks pretty standard, right? But this is a special faucet. It is the Delta Touch2O, which means that I can touch it to get the water to come on. It may seem kind of like a gimmick, but we've found that it is an enormously helpful function, primarily because when we're in an RV, it can save us a lot of water. What you do is you turn the faucet on with the handle, like a normal faucet, and then you can touch it to turn it on and off at whatever flow rate you've specified. So when we're off-grid, we can pick a nice low flow and then touch the faucet on and off, and it maintains that exact same flow, no adjusting the handle every time. Also, that low flow turns on and off so quickly that as we're washing dishes, we can turn it on and off so quickly and save a lot of water. Also, it just makes washing dishes easier and more pleasant. We're not splashing water all over the sink reaching for that faucet, and the water flow is so quick that it just makes it an easier experience. Other than touching the faucet on and off, this faucet is pretty much like any other faucet with a pull-out spout here, and it also has both the standard flow and the shower. One other feature that this faucet has is that it indicates when the flow is on with a little light down at its base. When the flow is on, the light turns on, and it also indicates the temperature of the water. When the light is blue, it means the water is cold. But as the water warms up, that blue fades into a purple and then into a dark red, indicating that the water is hot. This function we haven't used as much, but it would be kind of neat to turn the water on, let it run the hot water through the lines, and then you can look down and actually see when the water's hot instead of just letting it run and having to feel the water temperature. Now, you may have noticed that I'm able to move the faucet around without it coming on, and that's because the brains of this thing are smart enough to know between a push and a touch, so that a touch turns it on and a push doesn't come on, because otherwise that would be really frustrating to have it coming on all the time. You may also wonder, how is it held up in an RV going down the road? Does the vibration turn it on? We haven't had any issues with it. We did worry about that initially, and we tried to remember to always turn the faucet off and also turn the water pump off. We always try to turn the water pump off, but sometimes you might forget. In the times that we forgot to turn the water pump off and the faucet, we have never seen it come on, and we cover the sink when we are underway, so we would know because we'd basically have a flood. We haven't had a problem since. You also might ask about longevity and the battery life, because this runs with a battery installed underneath the sink. The battery controls a little valve that's mounted in line underneath the faucet, and then some electronics that connect to the faucet to sense when it comes on and off. We've had this installed for almost a year now, and the battery hasn't shown any indication of wearing out. You might also ask about just longevity as a whole, and we did install one of these faucets in a family's home about 5 years ago, and they've loved it and haven't had any problems with it since. And they say the batteries can last up to about 2 years, so battery life isn't really a problem. It just takes AA's, so we can replace them pretty quickly. Some RVs have a lot less space underneath the sink, but we were able to install the residential faucet without any problems. We didn't have to even drill a larger hole, and we were able to get the pull-out portion to go down through the hole into our lower cabinet so that it works properly. We replaced an American standard faucet that was already a residential faucet, so we weren't replacing an RV faucet for this, but you might have to check and see if you have enough space to be able to install the residential faucet in place of a really inexpensive RV faucet that is in a really tight space. Overall, I didn't find this faucet's installation any more difficult than a traditional faucet. You just follow the instructions. Of course, the space is tight underneath the sink, but overall, it really only took maybe an hour to install. We've also had a lot of people ask us about a motion faucet alternative, and we did consider motion faucets, the type that when you put your hands underneath it, they automatically turn on. We decided against the motion style because there is more of a delay in the electronics to figure out that your hands are there, and when they're removed, the water will keep running for a little while. Because of that, you can't save as much water, and it's not as quick as the touch faucet. So we prefer the touch faucets for saving water. Now, in addition to the awesome touch feature, we think that this faucet just looks really great. It looks a lot better than a lot of RV faucets, and it definitely looks better than the faucet that we had in this sink prior. Because we installed it and it looked so much better, we realized that our sink drains looked terrible against this new faucet. They were so corroded and old. And that's another upgrade we decided to make when we did the faucet. We were able to just go to Home Depot and get a whole drain kit and replace our drains in our sink to match the new faucet. This may or may not be something that you can do in your RV depending on your sink. Sinks come in many different shapes and sizes, and so do the drains. Some RVs have smaller drains, and you might need to replace that with a RV specific drain. But you can measure it, and if it's the standard household style, just go to Home Depot, go to Lowe's, pick out the ones you like, and make sure that they match with your fancy new faucet. So now we have a great faucet that we can control the water flow really well with, but what about the quality of the water coming out of it? Well, the first thing that we do in our RV is use a RV water filter store pre-filter kit, which hooks to the hoses coming into our RV. With that kit, we first run a sediment filter to catch any sand, rust, anything in the line, and then a 0.5 micron carbon block, which helps eliminate chlorine and some other chemicals in the water, in addition to trapping some bacteria. Now, this does a pretty good job if you're connected to a municipal supply, and it should get the water pretty clean. And we feel like that's good enough for our primary faucet use. However, we still don't feel confident drinking that water, especially since we drink out of our fresh water tank a lot of times if we hadn't purchased water. Now, we finally got away from purchasing water when we installed the undersink filter kit from RV Water Filter Store, which included the Aqua 0.5 micron absolute filter. This filter is a ceramic filter with a carbon core, so that both eliminates pathogens and further reduces anything that's in the water. This ceramic filter is removable, and you can clean the outside of it so that it will last a very long time. We feel like this does a pretty good job of filtering the water. However, undersink filters and point of use filters don't always get all the bacteria out of the water. It may seem counterintuitive, but filters can actually grow bacteria inside of them. And a lot of them include a silver additive to help prevent bacteria growth. But it doesn't mean that it kills them all off. And a biofilm can actually grow on the outside of the canisters, inside the filters, and even inside the lines up to the faucet. Many studies have shown that filters attached to faucets can sometimes increase the bacteria in the water from what's coming into the faucet itself. And because of that, we finally added the Acuva faucet and UV filtration system. What this system does is sanitize our water just before it gets to the faucet. It uses UV LEDs in the UVC spectrum to basically destroy proteins and DNA inside anything living in the water. It also comes with this beautiful modern looking faucet that when you turn it on, It glows blue at the base, and this blue is indicating that underneath the sink, the UV lights are sanitizing the water. This last line of defense gives us a lot of confidence that the water coming out of this faucet is very safe to drink. It will destroy viruses, bacteria, and additional parasites and other pathogens in the water. And I found out the hard way when I contacted a parasite from our travels somewhere, we're not sure where, but I contacted a Cyclospora parasite, which wreaked havoc on my guts for a long time. So knowing that the water doesn't have any living parasites in it is really, really comforting. Now, we left our original RV water filter store filter in place under the sink, but we added the Akiva after that filter, so that it is the last line of defense before the water gets to the faucet. We feel like this combination of filters is a really, really good way to clean up the water. Installing the Akiva is really, really easy. You do need to tap into the main cold water line from your faucet and then run a hose to the pre-filter. In our case, we left the RV water filter store filter in, but they also sell a pre-filter with the kit for the faucet. From the filter, another line runs over to a brick-like device that does need a power source. This brick contains all the UV LEDs, and it will glow blue when it is in use. The main brick does need power, and it's great because it's 12-volt power, which most RVs have readily available. You'll need to pull power over to it and tap it in, but if you don't have 12 volts available and you do have 120 volts, you could use an adapter to run this as well, say maybe in a residential home. When you first turn on the system, it glows green, indicating that it is doing a self-cleaning. I'm sure it's running the LEDs inside and probably just cleaning up whatever's inside it. It does that every so often, but for the most part, it's just gonna turn blue whenever you turn on the water. It senses the flow and starts sanitizing. One thing that is very important to note with the Akiva system is that it has a flow restrictor, which slows down the flow of water. And it is a pretty low flow, but it's enough for drinking water. What's so important about this flow restrictor is that the water needs to flow slow enough by those UV LEDs to give the UV enough time to interact with anything in the water and kill it. Overall installation of the Akiva is very easy. They had really easy to follow directions. We did have to drill a new hole in our kitchen counter, but that was pretty easily done. And accessing everything back up under the sink, we didn't find to be too much of a challenge. Overall, it's really going to depend on the RV how easy the install is, but their kit includes all the parts that you will need to tap into the water line, the hosing to run to the filter, the hosing to run to the Akiva, the flow restrictor, and the final hose to the faucet. You can buy the Akiva NX without the faucet as well and use a faucet of your own design. Say you maybe already have one or you want one that particularly matches your kitchen. So put them both together and we feel like this is a fantastic kitchen sink faucet setup. We love the touch faucet, we love the sanitized water, and it's really improved our kitchen usability. It may seem strange to say, but I can honestly say that these are some of our favorite RV upgrades, primarily because we use them all the time. If you're interested in building out this system or to get any of the individual parts, we got the touch faucet on Amazon and we'll provide a link in the description below. RV water filter store products are available on Amazon as well, or for a more personalized experience, you can check out their website at rvwaterfilterstore.com. Akiva sells directly on their website at acuvastore.com. We have partnered with them to provide you with a $100 off discount. $100 off your order at acuvastore.com. Apply the coupon code Mortons, M-O-R-T-O-N-S, at checkout to receive $100 off your order. Thank you so much for joining me today as we took a look at our RV faucet upgrades. Head over to the blog to read more, and we'll see you next time.